This weekend, wow, it is for everybody. I imagine this weekend was weird. It was weird because for like half a day, we did think half a day. That's so long. Half of a day. It's a very long time to think the president. And then, you know, we found out, oh, that wasn't the case. And they posted, you know. The news reports came out. They were like, the president's been found golfing in Virginia. It's like, don't say found like that. Found. Like a lost senior. Found. It's insane. Just say he was golfing in Virginia. Found in Virginia? It makes it sound like the White House didn't know. I'm pretty sure they drove him. Found. 12 hours is too long to think somebody's dead. My buddy lives with his grandpa. And every time he thinks his grandpa's dead, he finds out in about 5 minutes. His granddad does that sleep you only do when you old. You know that sleep where you like, I don't know why, but like it seems like after 70, people just sleep with a little bit too much neck. You know what I mean? Like his granddad can't just go to sleep. He always hit the like, that's a very dead way to lay. That's how Talia died at the end of Dark Knight Rises. She's like, the neck crank is a surefire way for somebody to put a spoon in front of your nose to see if you're still kicking. He does it a lot, apparently, you know, because his granddaddy sleeps pretty deep. There's that whole thing about sleep being the cousin of death, and I think it's his granddaddy's half brother, because not even a snore, not even a, you know what I mean? He said he always thinks his grandpa gone when he take a nap, because the way he falls asleep, which, to be fair to my friend, this is, I've never seen this in anyone else in my entire life. But he said his granddad will go take a nap. He'll announce it too, like, I lay down. And then he goes to lay down, whether it's on the couch or it's in his room, and lays his head back. And he said the way his granddaddy falls asleep is he takes a deep breath. That's a great way to look dead. This man goes to take a nap, lays on the couch and goes, Now, to be fair to his granddaddy, every time he wakes up, he does finish the breath. Said his granddaddy never wake up peaceful. He always wake up. But even then, he's never wondered if his granddaddy was gone for 12 hours. 12 hours. Jeez. And we thought that because Trump doesn't look good. You know what I mean? He just finally looked like he act like. You know what I mean? Like if somebody listed everything a person did next to everything that they ingested, you'd be like, that's not a person who's well. And finally, he doesn't, he just doesn't look like he's doing great. I didn't even know the term. He had some venous thing. Turns out that venous thing was his ankles. His ankles, I don't know if you've seen them. World leaders have seen them. World leaders have had to sit there and not look. In case you're not familiar, look, Trump's ankles are... No, his ankles just sitting there looking, caked up. Like... I mean, he got some thickums under those socks. Trump's ankles have quite a bit of booty. I can't imagine what that must be like to be an aide in the White House and walking next to the president, taking orders from the president of the United States, but all you can hear is his ankles clapping. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, it is. It's like his ankles and then his hand. That hand. His hand is black. Like it's just... Imagine being Donald Trump and turning black. No one's more upset than him. No, that's bad. That is tough. He's over here trying to live, and if you just don't have something on the schedule, people assume. It's funny too because I go back and forth with friends. I have friends that are sort of across the political spectrum. I have these friends who, whether they tell me or not, I know that they voted for Trump. At least one of them, I'm pretty sure, voted for him 3 times. Every time he could, he did. And so we'll go back and forth all the time. We'll mostly be arguing all the time. And we argue about a bunch of things that aren't Trump as well. Like sometimes we'll just argue about like whole social issues, whole different policies and everything. And maybe it's because I've known him longer than Trump has been president that I feel like having those arguments is to me, worth it. You know, I don't ask anybody else to do everything that I'm doing, but I think that there is something to get to the bottom of, and it's what we are gonna do when he's gone. Do you know what I mean? Because I think that right now it's easy to put everything that's happening and how we feel about each other on one person, because it's sort of the catalyst for all this stuff. But the groundwork was being laid long before he ever became president. And so whenever he's gone, you know, we're all gonna have to figure out a way to relate to each other. Because it's not as if all of the problems begin and end with him. You know, he's just one of them. But I don't know. No idea. It's maybe. We don't know. It could be any day now. It could be 200 more years. Truly, like, my grandma was in the nursing home before she passed, and I would go visit her and everything. My grandfather as well, at different times, they were in nursing homes, and when I go to visit them, you'd see people who had to be 3,000 years old. And it's like, I don't know, you know, you try to live a life that's full of love, and like you try to make memories and moments with family, with strangers. You want to have a full life. You want to have a life that you look back on and you're proud of the impact you had on people, you know? And along the way, try to maybe, I don't know, eat right when you can, but enjoy yourselves, you know? Drink sometimes, not too often. Maybe party a little bit when you're younger and it wean off of it as you get older, but do your best to have a really impactful life, even if you never become whatever it is, like rich, famous, popular. You're someone who, by being in other people's lives, their lives are richer. And same way that trees in the forest have roots that overlap, your life impacts other people's lives. You create ripple effects and create positive change in the world. And hopefully by doing all the right things, you have a good long life. Or you could be the devil and probably live way longer, like way longer. So many of those people in that nursing home were very mean. They were so mean. I was like, man, life must run off hate fuel. How are you this old and mad you're alive too? Be sitting there, none keeps you alive longer than sitting in a rocking chair and not rocking. Imagine, you gotta really be a bad person to sit in a rocking chair, have the joy of rocking and not even want it. My friend said, you know, he went through a similar thing. He would go to the nursing home, visit his grandparents and stuff, and he said every day there was this old dude in a rocking chair, not rocking, sitting there, arms crossed in the chair. Everybody walked by. People would say hello to him. Finally, he was like, you know what? I say hello to this man when I pass him, and we never really have a conversation. He doesn't speak to me, and I don't take it personally, because you never know what people are going through. You know, some people, you might think they're being rude, but maybe they have something going on. Maybe they have dementia a little bit, or maybe they're in their own head about something, trying to remember something, doing something. So he said, I'm gonna make a point the next time I go there to have a conversation with him. You know what I mean? Because that's the one thing he said he never saw anybody do. And so next time he went to visit his grandpa, on the way out, he walked up to him and he was like, hi, how you doing? The man said, I'm alive. And it's like, well, I hope you're having a good day. He's like, why would it be a good day? And, well, you know, it's nice outside and everything, sun shining. You're in a rocking chair. And he was like, I'm in a rocking chair. I don't like this rocking chair. I just sit in it so nobody else cares. It's easy to put everything in the way that we are now and all narratives and all discourse on just one person. It's easy to do that, especially when that person looks like they're driving all of it, right? But the ground was laid for this person long before they came into any sort of political picture. You know what I mean? Like for a long time, people have felt like there was nobody who was looking out for them. For a long time, people felt like it would take somebody who could not be bought by Washington or Wall Street's special interest money, or couldn't be twisted in whichever direction by lobbyists, or was looking out for people because they weren't motivated by money, and they weren't motivated by the promise of getting rich, and the thing that we came to believe as a country almost. You saw this way before Trump ever entered the political pictures, that if someone was at least independently wealthy, maybe they wouldn't be swayed by the money. You know what I mean? And there were those people across political spectrum that felt like there was no one looking out for them, that slowly everything that was their quality of life and everything that they earned was eroding away piece by piece, right? And that they just needed someone to step up who would stand in the way of all that and wouldn't be swayed by it. And unfortunately, that person never showed up. But like... And so I have these arguments with my friend, and there was one point where I'm going back and forth for a while, because I felt like for everything that he said, I was saying something that was a reason why he shouldn't trust Trump on it, or why I didn't think it was something that was going to happen, you know? And finally he goes, well, you know, he's a businessman. And I had heard this before, and he said he's a businessman. And I was like, oh, he's a businessman. He's a businessman. He is a businessman. He's a businessman, though. No, like he is a businessman. He is a businessman. He is a businessman. He's a businessman. He is a businessman. You said he's a businessman, and so he's a businessman. You told me he's a businessman. I've heard this before. He's a businessman. I'm just making sure that I understand what you're saying. He's a businessman. He is a businessman. He's a businessman. So even you didn't say good businessman. You said, You said, as in he's one, as in, yes, he does business. It's a businessman. Yeah. He's a businessman. He is a businessman that bankrupted a casino. You know casinos. You know those things you don't generally leave money with. He bankrupted a casino. He's a businessman. He bankrupted a casino. A casino, though. He's a businessman. It's a businessman. Bankrupted a casino. And look, I'm not a businessman. And I don't own a casino. In fact, whenever I go to a casino, I don't even gamble. I just do the show. I've done some shows at casinos. And then, I do the show, and then I go back to my room. I leave. Like, I don't know the ins and outs of running a casino. I hardly know what it's like to really, enjoy yourself at a casino, walking through and playing games and stuff. I've walked with other people as they've wanted to gamble and stuff like that. I've been like awkwardly standing there, but I don't know what it takes to run a casino. And maybe this casino, look, maybe, I'm throwing this out there as an olive branch. One of many I'll extend. Maybe this casino, this one, maybe had those slot machines that really give you credit for how hard you pull them. You know what I mean? You pull that slot machine as hard as you can, and the slot machine is like, okay, Daddy. Nah, I gotta get you a little something for that. No, I don't know, but he knows because he's a businessman. He's a businessman. Maybe I'm throwing it out there that at this casino they had, working for the casino, blackjack dealers that were as bad at blackjack as me. Maybe. The dealer, you'd be at his table, and he was like, you said hit? You sure? Okay. And you win again. All right, wonderful. I don't know. He probably knows because he's a businessman. Maybe this was one of the only casinos in all of America, maybe in all of the world, the only casino with clocks. Who knows? Maybe just over the poker table was a clock, and people were like, 9 already? I should go home. I've been here for quite a while. I don't know, but I'm sure he knows because he's a businessman. He's a businessman. Bankrupted a casino. A businessman. And look, it's a casino. I can't think of a better... People come and drop off their money and leave. I can't think... I am not a businessman, but I can't think of a better business to make money. You can't even have casinos everywhere. But, you know, this is my thing. A part of me does understand how someone could think all we need to do is get a businessman in there to fix everything, because I think that America runs so much like a business, even in the parts that it shouldn't, that obviously we're going to think everything translates to business. You know? Like I didn't, this was where I was naive, I'll tell you right now. I thought that even if there was no national pride or community, or even if we couldn't find some sort of like camaraderie as Americans, we at least, at our very core, loved money enough. I thought we loved money more than anyone loved him. I thought as soon as somebody messed with the money, we would all come to our senses and be like, yo, not the money. That's the only thing holding this together. But then you see there are people whose lives have already been ruined. Because of his policies, you could lay all the blame at his feet, and they're like, I'll figure something else out. You'll figure something else out. That's crazy. That's a crazy thing to say. Especially when, like, what? 12 months ago, you were screaming about eggs. And now your business is in shambles. And you're like, who can say? That felt insane. But also, I think that if you look at America as a business, it would make sense that you would want a businessman in there. But the thing is, you can't run the country the way you run a business. You know, a company, if they are in dire straits, could lay off half their work staff and then try to keep things going, use that to stay afloat. A company can buy back its own stocks in an effort to enrich itself as a company, make those stocks worth more. A company has a fiduciary responsibility to its shareholders. A company technically does more for its shareholders than the government does for its people. And so I could see how people would be like, oh, we'd at least like to get that. That'd be nice, some dividends or equity, something. We'd at least like to feel solvent. But it just doesn't work that way. And I don't think it should. I think that a business now is very different than a business before. Like there's a thing that happened, and maybe it's only like my frame of reference because of age and everything, but I think that something happened in 2008 that we haven't recovered from still, which is that, like, for the first time ever, companies that truly screwed up beyond measure, like actually beyond measure, like they should have crashed everything. This is the type of stuff that you read in the textbook and then they, hung everybody. Like that's... We don't realize it, but that's the level of like nasty that it got in 2008. If you had, knocked off a couple 100 years and put it in France, there would have been a guillotine. You know what I mean? And instead, there was a bailout, but instead of a bailout of the people, it was a bailout of the companies, because we believe in business so much. We believe that everything works like a business to the point where even the politicians, naively, maybe some of them sincerely, were sure that if we keep the business afloat, it'll keep the people afloat, because then people won't lose their jobs, and then people will still be able to get these services, and people will still buy these products, right? And what ended up happening is that, so many people were foreclosed on, so many people lost their jobs anyway, people's like 401ks and retirements were destroyed, and then the people that they gave the bailout to sort of, trickle down the economics, something got stopped up right at the top. And so people who had wrecked the economy beyond measure got a bonus. They got a bonus for wrecking usually when you break something. And ever since then, it feels like business is about not being left holding the bag. That's what real business seems to be now, is that you do everything you can to extract as much value as possible, and then you dip before everything comes crashing down, whether you dip because you sell the company or you dip because, you decide to shutter it after you've like fired everyone and ruined it as a service and everything. Basically private equity, right? So I believe he's a businessman. I do, because I'm sure, look, if we're talking business, to his credit, I'm sure that he was not worse off for bankrupting that casino. I'm sure it was the people that worked at the casino. I'm sure he stiffed some of the contractors who helped build the casino, but I'm sure that he found a way to leverage that debt, because he loves debt. He found a way to leverage that debt into his next venture, and then he started selling steaks or whatever. I don't know. Like, it was just, it's been a lot of products. You know what else it is too, is that You can't focus too much on this one person. It makes him more important than he really is. I understand that he's president. I understand he's one of the richest people in the world. But as far as importance, it's about what lasts, you know? This dude, no wonder we thought he was gone. He went on Fox News. No wonder we thought he was gone. Trump went on Fox News. Everybody forget this. Trump went on Fox News and just started randomly. No one asked him. Randomly talking about how he was trying to get into heaven. And it's like, then you know. One thing my buddy's granddaddy never does is talk about the afterlife. Gets up, watches his shows, takes his naps, gets up and eats, and repeats. If he was pontificating on heaven, I think people would just start assuming that every nap really was the last nap. No. It's because, you know, a man's hand. Guys, he's turning black. But I don't, look, I truly, I talk about Trump because he's in the news, but I don't really care about Trump. I care about people. What's going on with people? All of this is going to outlast this one person, you know? And even in California, you see in California, where there was one case, it seems contained and already treated and everything, but it is happening. One case of plague. You know plague. You know plague. Plague. Some would ask which plague. Apparently, the. You know plague from the producers of the Middle Ages. Plague. You know plague. Don't act like you don't know plague. You know plague. It's plague. The reason Europe's not bigger. Plague. You know plague. And no matter how much you may hate Trump, you gotta admit, this is some pretty bad luck. He 2 for 2 on presidential terms and plagues. That's crazy. That was wild. Yeah, first one a fluke. The second one, how did a plague skip Biden's era? Like that's. Plague. Because that's the fear, is that like, yes, they found one case, they treated it, you know, they've even traced it back to a particular source, because it's really a climate change issue, because basically the fleas that carry plague are thriving right now in the warmer climate, and so then they're hopping on more rats, and then the rats might come in contact with people, right? And so there's always the fear, the possibility that it isn't just that one case, and it isn't just contained to California. There's a real fear and a possibility that plague could have spread to the president's hand. It's possible. Because what we did, and how do I put this? What we've done in the U.S. as far as presidents is it's not exactly like we're picking young ones. You know what I mean? Whatever you do, whatever that thing is, whether it's law, is military, or it's business, we seem to want you to have a wealth of experience in that field. Because there's going to be 3 branches of the government, and you may not be familiar with all of them, even if you're a career politician. You may not know how to like wade perfectly through all of them. But, you know, if you have a lot of experience in one thing, that could win you the trust of the people. And we haven't had a young president in a long time. I mean, like, Kennedy was one, like, young ones, like a young guy being president. And we haven't really done that again. Like, you know, what we've done is we've let confidence and swag make up for youth. If you are the president and you present yourself in a way that makes us feel good, we will turn that back over to you in the sort of social capital that youth usually carries, right? Because we want you to have experience, but at a certain point, we have to be realistic, right? Like, Bill Clinton wasn't young, but he had a saxophone. We had a saxophone, so we defended him. We were like, that shows lung capacity. Have you heard him play, though? And then you had George W. Bush. Look, George Bush wasn't young, but he... I don't know, he just had like a childlike wonder to his... You could always tell when he was addressing the nation and he had also just learned a new word. Bush would be up there like, terror. Did I do it good? And then you had Barack Obama. And Barack Obama was younger than some of the people who have been president, you know, before and since, but he wasn't a baby. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't incredibly young, but he had that exact thing I'm talking about. He had an energy that was like a mobilization behind him, and he had like some measure of charisma that made up for any youth he might have been lacking. You know, I remember when Barack Obama sang that Al Green. That was incredibly uncomfortable. No, because when it happened, I was at a get together with a bunch of aunties going, "Oh, Barack." I'm like, no. No, I'm trying to have my dinner right now. What you doing? Can't eat meatloaf in these conditions. And then you went from Obama to Trump, and Trump had that energy. He had people behind him, and he came off youthful because he was like a schoolyard bully. Anytime somebody said something, any interview that went awry, he was ready, nickname, anything. He was just coming at you all the time. It's like he fed off of it. It was his favorite thing to fight with the media and get people riled up. That feels like youthful energy. That feels like it's going to be here forever, you know? And then we went from Trump to Biden, who, to be fair, told us he was going to be old. I've talked about this before. We were coming at Biden. We asked Biden, and Biden was like, "Are you sure? I got a Werther's in my mouth right now." I'll do it if you want me to do it, but my car does smell like potpourri, so. I'll do it. If y'all want me to do it, I'll do it. For real. If y'all like, no. Like if I'm the only one that can stop them, if I need to do it, I'll do it. But just know, when I shake world leaders' hands at the G7, G20, whatever, my hand will pop a lot. Whole handshake. It's gonna sound like Orville Redenbacher. But if y'all insist. And then we got Trump again after Biden, and this feels very different. You go back and watch a rally of Trump from 2016, 2017, and then you watch a press conference now, very different. It's very, very different. I mean, it seems like he's dying. Like it's because look, I'm not. It's not lost on me that to be an American, to live in the U.S., you have to become, or at least have an understanding of what you need to do to be a semi-good capitalist, right? And there are people that ask the question, how can you fight for a more equitable world while you're living in a system that is corrupt? And I look at it the way I look at when I travel and I meet people who live in the country, but they don't speak the language, right? Like your native language is compassion and charity. You weren't made specifically to speak the language of margin calls and derivatives, dividends and everything. That's a language you can learn to get by because you live here, but it's not a language you were born with. When your parents are raising you, or when you have fond memories of being a kid, they all come from things much, much deeper than money. And then as you get older, you clearly need money to get by. That's no crime. Like, you know, you have to function as a society. So you learn how to move with money as best as possible, but you can get distracted. It can take you to a place that makes it hard to remember your humanity. You know what I mean? Like some people look at anyone who has succeeded in business as someone who must have earned it, but that's not how all business works. You know what I mean? Like if I own a house and I set it on fire and I run out of the house, am I a genius or did I just have an insurance policy? Maybe both, but maybe I'm a crook. You know? Like only solvency that you have to contend with is your soul. You know what I mean? The solvency is defined by a company's ability to pay its long-term debts, right? If a company's not solvent, you have no trust in that company, and you probably shouldn't invest in that company. And as long as we're keeping it to financial terms, a soul works in a similar way. Depending on your belief system, depends on if your solvency, your long-term debt is to God or family, your community or a cause. But like, you can tell the difference between a religion and a cult by how they measure those solvencies. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that every major religion doesn't have its blemishes. It has people, so it's going to have plenty of mistakes in its history. But, you know, a religion that only speaks to what is deeper about you and what is in you and what happens outside of all of this is probably worth looking into, worth reading about. And anything that brings it all the way down to the material good is probably a cult. You know what I mean? Just because a cult usually wants your money. They start off pretty good. A cult usually starts off with like a great party or something, and then like, I don't know, in about 3 weeks they're like, hey, how much do you make? You know, dividends work the same way. Dividends get paid out. Companies will pay dividends to their investors, and those dividends go to go to shareholders. They go to investors. And if you have ever been the beneficiary of someone's kindness or goodwill, then you have dividends to pay throughout your life, you know? And I don't know if that can be understood if you only understand business. You know? Country isn't a business. It just isn't. You know what I mean? Like, but who knows? He's a businessman. Like, maybe he's Trump is a businessman the way JFK Jr. was a pilot. You know what I mean? Oh, all right. No, you should groan. You're on the plane. Cool. How y'all doing? Everybody good? Sweet. I was reading this news story from Australia where this woman has finally been charged in connection with the death of 3 people. She's been charged for murder of 3 people who died after they ate lunch at a lunch party she threw. And when they arrested her, she was like, how am I supposed to know what's poison and what's not poison? You know what I mean? Like, it could be anything. Why couldn't the meal be so good that they died? Did anybody think of that? And the more that I read about the story, it was baffling. So it turns out just about everybody at the lunch party were her ex-husband's relatives. So yeah, I think you might have done it. Wow, that's crazy. I know some of y'all out here love staying friends with your exes and stuff, but if I ever have an ex-wife, and one day, randomly in July, she's like, how about you and your whole family come and eat a meal I cook while I watch? I'm gonna have to decline all the poisoning. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I don't care. I don't care what type of apple flavors you make it. You're not killing me, okay? You know. And the only reason the husband's still alive is at the last minute he couldn't make it. So he was also gonna be there, and then he was like, sorry, got held up at work. Then he lived. That feels crazy, you know. They say revenge is a dish best served beef Wellington. And I loved it though, because it was such a weird story. And then imagine your alibi being like, y'all know I can't cook. Like, what is your plan here, man? You all ever have that person in your life that's like the dumbest person you know, like just top to bottom, you're like, how are you still alive? You know what I mean? You just won't even understand how they function. You know, it's like, you made it this far, and yesterday couldn't have been easier than today. How do you keep racking up days consecutively? I know a dude that, I won't even call him a friend. I know a dude that is the most unsuccessful drug dealer I've ever met in my life. This is absolutely astounding. How do you fail at selling drugs to people who very much want drugs? Like, they would like drugs very much until they meet you. That is crazy. What kind of bad vibes are you putting out that someone on crack is like, you know what? I'll wait. That's insanity. How'd you take the urgency out of drugs? It's truly wild. I've never seen anything like it. He honestly cleaning up the streets. Everybody he tries to sell to don't want it. I'm like, you making the neighborhood safer by the day. You really need to work for the DARE program or the police. Somebody where you can make money by being bad at what you do. It's astounding. I told him, I was like, you need to do something else with your life. This is clearly not your calling, all right? You know, because when you're good at selling drugs, if you're good enough, they'll make movies about you, they'll make TV shows about you. His movie would be 8 minutes. It would be him haggling for the price of meth with somebody and then them being like, you know what, keep it, and then just walking away. I told him, I was like, you need to do something else, and he got all defensive. You know, he was like, you putting it all on me. It's not all me, you know? This dude actually said to me, he's like, can I borrow a couple dollars till I get paid? I'm like, there's no payroll. Like, you sell drugs and you'll be paid. There's no, I'm not giving you money, because then you'll literally have to pay me back with drug money. That's insane. Now I'm part of the operation. I don't want to have anything to do with this. He's always so defensive, like, you putting it all on me. It's not all me, okay? It's this economy. I'm like, no, you don't get to say that. No one smoking crack is saving up for a house. It's devastating. I also had, okay. Y'all know what the ick is, right? Okay, in case you don't know what the ick is, in case you don't have TikTok, the ick is when you are infatuated with someone. You really like them, and then they do something. It's usually something innocuous, something that's very particular. And then it just turns you off. You lose that infatuation, and hence the ick. You don't want to be with them anymore. Like if you went on a date with someone, and then on the date, they were eating, and they were like slurping their soup extra hard, and now you don't want to be with a whole person because they use their mouth. You know what I mean? Like, everyone always talks about what their ick is, you know? Or what they don't like, what gave them the ick. But nobody ever talks about being the ick. Have you noticed that? It's like, it's always about what bothers me. It's never people just admitting that they did something. Like, I'll be vulnerable for a second. I've been the ick before. And there's nothing like watching yourself be the ick in the woman's face. It's the saddest, it's genuinely horrible. Because it's like, once again, I'm not a bad person. I'm not doing anything crazy or gross. I'm just, I did whatever I did, and now we both like, oh, yeah. I give you some examples. I used to live in Chicago, right? And when I lived there, I was... my life was not great. I don't know, I was very broke. I remember I had gone on this date, and the date was fantastic. We had a great time. She even came back to my place. We're sitting on my bed. She's clearly gonna spend the night. It's definitely about to happen. But I had work in the morning, so I just wanted to make sure that I had set my alarm for work and that I plugged my phone in so it didn't die, right? But the way that my bed was, the plug for the outlet was slightly behind the bed, okay? So now I'm trying to reach and plug it in, but I'm also trying to maintain this eye contact, this vibe that we have going. So now I'm trying to plug it in, but I'm not looking and I can't find it, right? And so I'm just watching her slowly get more and more disappointed as I'm trying to plug this in, and I can't, and I'm talking my game too. I'm like, I'm about to tear it up, girl. One second, you about to get it. At one point, I think I even said, come on! And it just killed the vibe. It really did, because you just looking at me, and she didn't say it, but you could see on her face, it's like, you're not too good at plugging stuff into sockets. That's not good foreshadowing, you know what I mean? I think let's just watch a movie or something. And I'm not gonna lie, it took me a while to get my confidence back up, you know? It took me a while to get my life together. And once I did, once I was more put together and I moved my bed, I put myself back out there. And so I went on a first date with this young lady, and we we were gonna go to dinner and a movie. And then on the way to dinner, I pushed a pull door, all right? And like, and there's no quicker way to look like you have an iron deficiency in front of a woman than to push a pull door. Because I had overcommitted, because I'm trying to be a gentleman, right? I'm trying to open the door for her, let her walk in first and everything. So I gave a little push. That we were talking, I gave a little push. I was like, maybe it just needs extra pressure. So I leaned into it a little bit more, and when it wouldn't budge, I was like, maybe I need two hands. And so now so now I'm square with the wall, right? And I'm pushing. And then I had pushed so hard that I started slipping. So I was sliding down as I was pushing, and right when my forehead hit the wall, like hit the door, I saw that in little print it said pull. But who puts pull in fine print? That's crazy. And so I opened the door and she walked in. She was sweet. She tried to ignore it and everything. But then it went to the movie and I pulled a push. And like this one, I didn't pull as long as I had pushed the other one, so it wasn't as embarrassing. But it's just like I really tugged hard. Like I didn't put my foot up on or anything, but I was just like, I tugged hard. Your first date is supposed to be you getting to know a person. You know what I mean? And so now I could tell I gave her the ick because we were having a good time outside of those two situations. But then she was like, in her mind, I think, maybe, she was like, he's sweet, but he don't understand doors. And it's like, how do you... And it was embarrassing, but it's like, and I don't know if I should bring it up and address it or if I should just let it go or something, but she saw it both times, like she was waiting to get in. Like, so it's not like something she could just ignore. So now, and I wanted to be like, look, I understand, I got a door in my room. Like, that's... But then she was looking at me after like when we went in the movie, like the rest of the day, she was looking at me like I was slow. And then I was like, I got a door in my room, which does make me sound slow. Like just, I got a door in my room. Like that sounds crazy because it's like, am I talking about a closet or am I talking about the door to my room? And it's just, it was devastating. And I get it. Like, I understand from her perspective, because she doesn't want to be out here dating somebody that she gotta look out for. Like, I get close to a door and she gotta be like, it's an innie. Like, so I get it. The worst one, absolute worst one was months later. Okay, so I used to work at a grocery store, right? And I was working one day and I slipped on some Rogue juice. And so it was some spill in the aisle. I slipped on juice and I fell on my hip. And I fell like that. You know when somebody take like an old fall? Like, you know, like that fall where you like, grandpa got one left. Like it was like that level fall because I fell on pure hip. It was like hip bone, right? And so I was all bruised up and hurting and everything, and I was like limping for some of the day. And then as I was healing up, because I didn't have health insurance, so when you don't have health insurance, you like, I think I just live like this now. You know what I mean? Like because by the next day I was healing up, but my hip was clicking, right? And so it would click whenever I would walk, and when I would sit down, that was 3 clicks right there. And so it was clicking nonstop. And I didn't have health insurance, so I was like, I think I'll just click now. I think that's just a part of who I am as a person. And so fast forward a couple days later, I'm still hurt, I'm still clicking and everything, but I've been seeing someone. And this was gonna be the first time that we hooked up, and so we're about to have sex, and we start having sex, and I gotten so used to the clicks
that I wasn't really thinking about them anymore, right? And I had been healing up, so I was like, maybe I don't even click like that. But then we started, and I didn't realize I click on the in and the out. Like I'm clicking nonstop, and it's loud too. It's so loud because I didn't put on any music, so there's no Miguel, there's no R&B to hide behind. It's just the clicks is all you can hear in the room. And I left my bathroom door open, so now I'm getting click echo from because it'll click in the room and click in the bathroom, and there's a click back, right? And I'm trying to put in work, so I'm sounding like a horse on cobble. Like I'm like truly nonstop because I'm really I'm trying to make a good impression. This is our first time hooking up, so I'm like nonstop. And so then she trying to act like she don't hear it. She trying to be polite and everything. She's like, ooh, okay. But she can clearly hear it, you know? And then I'm getting self-conscious. So now I start clicking off rhythm, you know what I mean? It's like, which is just making it worse because it's like, it's already bad that you clicking, but if you clicking on the 1 and the 3, everybody knows that this is bad. Now, you know what I mean? And so then I was like, she was like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm good. How you doing? How's it for you? And she was like, we should talk. And I was like, all right, that's never good. And then we sat down. She's like, are you like okay? I'm like, yeah, no, I'm fine. I just fell. It was some rogue juice in the aisle, and I fell. And then she was like, well, how about we try me on top? And so we did. And then that did not help at all because now it was just, it was louder clicks because there was more pressure, right? So now it was like, it felt like it was her clicks, you know what I mean? Like now she sounded like a full Paul Revere, right? Like, because she was riding me, but she's also like nonstop. And it was devastating. It was so bad. And that's the only person that's ever ghosted me where I was like, I understand. I get it. I think I even texted her afterwards, like, hey, I understand. Like a month after she stopped hearing my text message, I just texted her one last time, like, I understand. Like, it's horrible. I don't know if y'all saw the news, but the orcas are at it again. Orcas, if you haven't seen it, the orcas, killer whales, are out here sinking yachts. They just ramming the yachts until they sink and everything. And who would have thought that the orcas would be the ones to step up? Like, yeah, I mean, like, rich people just be rich in our faces all the time on land. And then they went into the water, and the orcas were like, not my hood, dog. Like, crazy. I wish orcas had thumbs so bad, just because I would just want them to throw up gang signs with their fins. All day. The most recent one was this yacht that was going through the Strait of Gibraltar, and these orcas attacked it for 45 minutes, which must be terrifying because, like, I would hate to get killed by an orca because it's like their echolocation, the noises that they make are so close to dolphins. Like, just imagine you being murdered in the water and all you hear is like, gang, this is terrible. Tearing you up. It's horrific, you know? But they rammed the boat for 45 minutes and then finally it started to sink. Now, I was reading more about the story. It turns out there was no rich guy on that yacht. That yacht was just like in transit. So then when it capsized, the crew was who was in danger. But the orcas didn't attack any of the crew. Crew made it out safe, which does make me think even more that this is a money thing. Like, this is, it's gotta be. You had plenty of people right there to chop up and dice on and nibble up, and you didn't. And I'd like to think that, like, an orca nibble, maybe one of them, it was like, oh, that tastes like work. I need supple. That's that workman meat too tough. You know what I mean? But y'all have been amazing. Thank you so much.